Hey guys, welcome to your July energy report. And I know it's late, but better late than never. And I'm going to tell you why that is. I'm going to just keep it 100. I don't like doing these reports. They are taking too long. They take like 3 days. I went to do the last one last week and I had skipped 2 parts, like the gene keys of 1 week and the I Ching of the other week. And I was going to have to dub it. I was like, I'm not dubbing this. I'm not enjoying this. I'm going to stop. Then I got a message from someone who was watching and they said that they liked my energy reports. And I thought, okay, so maybe I'm not supposed to stop. When I face resistance, I always question what I'm doing, right? And instead, I have to do this in a more 4D way instead of a 3D way. The 3D way feels like a lot of paperwork. There's paperwork everywhere. I've got books. I've got pages of stuff that I do notes on for the monthly report. And it feels so 3D, so dense. And instead, now I'm taking it to 4D. Okay. So there's symbolism, there's archetypes. And just like before, if you've been following me for a while, I used to go over the monthly astrology reports with an art piece from an artist who did the monthly astrology art for a series he did. And I really enjoyed that process. So I have been playing with art and I've decided to create a piece that represents the monthly energy, has all the symbolism in it, and we walk over it just like we did then and go over everything that's going on for the month at the same time. Now I feel like this is something that's a lot more straightforward, a lot more activating, and you can go to the description in the bio, click the link, download the image, save the image, use the image through the month and see how it helps. Okay, let's get started. Okay, ta-da. This is my first piece that represents this month. Okay, now what is this a drawing of? So this is primarily thinking about the astrology of the month, the I Ching of the month, with the human design kind of like hidden inside of it. And as you can see here, and something you should really note is that this month's theme is mountain. As we go through the I Ching, it's like these different energies of alchemy happen to us in a set order, okay? And it goes like earth, water, mountain, thunder, fire, a flame, lake, earth, and then there are 2 sets here. So it's like earth, water, earth, lake. Then, after that series, it could be mountain, earth, mountain, water, mountain, lake. And so each element, I would say, has a chance of being a foundation at the bottom and partners with a top. Okay. And if you think of that as an experience that lasts around 5 weeks, because it's 6 days and the degrees change around the 6th day, you are going through this cycle or season within this series of elements that help you bring experience in, experience the experience emotionally, get inspiration from the experience, change because of the experience, ground yourself in the experience, and go back to heaven and pull up another one. Okay. And we have this opportunity, let's say every 5 weeks, almost like every month and some change. And within these divine opportunities, the foundation of one might be what we experienced before, which was earth at the bottom, which was very, internal, a lot of internal processing, a lot of intuitive experience, very divine feminine. Where we are now is mountain, and mountain is all about foundational energy. Okay. It's about grounding and stabilizing on earth and having something that's everlasting. This is kind of funny for me. This came up in a way where I have a friend who's working on an app. I can't say too much about it, but it's got a lot to do with just like financial stuff and, getting your paperwork together. And I'm helping her beta test it. And it's really helping me get that foundation of our paperwork together for like my family and for my business and everything like that. And all of these different structures that I feel like we're working on these foundational elements that are everlasting. And without the proper structure and the proper foundation in place, you really can't get that far. So what I have for you here is obviously this is a mountain that looks like a skirt. Thank you very much. And that is our foundation, that sturdy place that we are to grow from during this time. Now, at the beginning of the month, we were in water over mountain. Then we had wind over mountain. Water over mountain, you see this water pouring down. All about the emotions that come in. Okay. So if it's water over water, the emotions are going to feel a certain way. If it's water over mountain, the emotions are going to feel a certain way. Okay. So you've got this draw of emotional energy that came at the top of the month and it landed on helping to carve out and to create this foundation. Okay. So I want to talk about the water that happened at the beginning of the month. And I don't know how the beginning of your month was, but mine involved my cat having to be euthanized. So this heavy emotional experience. Then I had an experience in my garden where like the city came by to do the lawn mowing for the empty properties, and they cut the front of my garden with all of my healing herbs. That happened like 2 days after the cat, and I was just done. Okay. And so like they butchered an area of my garden with a weed whacker. They did not separate allium from sage, from lady's mantle, from fennel. They didn't even look. They didn't even realize that behind them was a garden and ducks and like a whole backyard. It just like goes beyond me. They'd already cut all of the front of it. And these things brought up a lot of emotions in me. And I started thinking about like, what is my purpose? What am I doing? Where am I bucking against the system? One that like just goes around and just cuts things willy-nilly, even though there's a whole nature out there. You know, if you have listened to any of my last stuff, you know how I am with nature right now. Okay, we can simpatico. And I see you just butchering her right after I've had this experience. I am in a state, okay? And all of this, because I know what the energy was, because I had worked on this report for a really long time. All of that water, all of that information, all of those chemical signals were telling me where I fit in this reality, and where I don't want to use the word fight. I talk to my husband about this a lot. When you think of you're fighting the system or fighting injustice, you are thinking of a combative nature that is negative. I want to expand and create something that grows from love based on something terrible I've experienced. So how can I enlarge the love within another system that literally can magnetize for people who are looking for an experience? I don't know how to put it, but in a way, how do I move with love with all of these things that are happened, where I feel like I have a voice and a part that I'm supposed to play? And this has been coming up a lot with even just if you're a part of politics, if you've been watching the news, if you know anything about the chaos in the world, after a while, if you're just going to keep getting pissed and you're not going to do anything, it's very disempowering. So I think this foundational energy is really asking us, what's our part in transforming this darkness into light? Where do we each fit? Because each of us have such divine and unique perspectives and ideas and draws and places where we feel very passionate. How do you turn that passion and take it and turn it towards love in a way that it can outshine until it goes away, right? It outshines. You outlove the hate. You outlove the resistance. You outlove the injustice. And that, to me, is really a theme of this month, and building foundations and structures that allow me personally, I know, to carry through with those actions. Okay, so after the experience of water over mountain, okay, and we go through that experience, we went through at the top of the month, it's already passed, wind over mountain. Now, this was a very interesting week for me because wind is communication, baby. It's all of the information coming into you through flow of communication. So if you think of water as being a chemical messenger, it sends signals throughout the body. The wind comes in and sends signals through conversation and what you hear, what you're listening to, and who you're talking to through the social element. So by now, I'm listening to all these people tell me about their pets dying. And I talked about this again in one of these videos if you want to watch it. But I'm hearing all this information, and it's all coming to me about all of these different ways where they feel like they have been wronged by the system. Okay. Now, the wind in this image, you can see it parting the waters. You can't see it because it's wind, but it's literally parting the waters. I also want to add that I find it hilarious that during this time, we have the full moon in, it's not hilarious, it's just symbolism, but the full moon is in Capricorn. Again, it's all about that mountain. And with Capricorn being the full moon, I want you to think of like seeing the experience of climbing, getting to the top, knowing what you want, talking to the gods, and allowing information to come to you from a higher place. Okay. And if you think about when the wind comes in, if you go to the strongest place of that current, it's going to be at the top of the mountain. You can get the most information, and it might not make you feel settled, but at least you know. Okay. So you might have had that experience last week where you felt like you were just getting insight or clarity or knowledge that you can transform to wisdom on all of the different topics that you might be passionate about, even if it's your work, right? Right now, and we'll talk about this as we get to the bottom of the image, but like you have to remember, we've got these major planets that have moved into these other signs. We talked about all of this with Pluto and Saturn and Neptune and Uranus, all having moved. With the last player, Uranus, which is lightning, we're going to talk about next, or thunder. I want you to think about now Uranus is moving, but Saturn and Neptune have creeped back into retrograde. You got more to pick up. So if you've been working on something, and I always say this in a video because I talk mostly to entrepreneurs or people who are trying to launch something with their mission. If you've been working on something and you thought it was done, and we talked about it being done a little bit in May, and I told you that this was going to be dress rehearsal for what is to come in 2026. Now we're going back, having had a little bit of insight into where we need to add. We're going back to edit again. And I'm going to talk about that again a little bit further into this. But I want you to remember that last week you picked up communication. So think about the conversations you had, what you read, what you heard, what inspired you, what pissed you off, what motivated you, and see where it's supposed to move you based on what you're doing now. Okay. Okay. So this week already we are in thunder over mountains. So remember, thunder. Let's talk about mountain. I don't really think I've gotten into this enough because it is foundational energy, but it requires something very important. It requires stillness. Mountain is they don't move, babe. They don't move. Parts of them crumble off, but they're supposed to stay where they are. They grow, but they don't move. Okay. They're strong. They're sturdy. The only thing that can cut through it is the steady pace of water. Let's get to that next. But think about this stillness of the mountain that you are, this is you. Okay. Man or woman, I don't care. This is a very divine feminine essence coming out of this. I want you to think of you being this mountain. And this is about stillness and action in this weird way. How can you have both, right? It's stillness and action is because when you are in the right time and in the right place to act, you have nowhere else to be. So when you are still, you find you find time and space, okay? Or time and space gets a chance to lock onto you. And from there, when you move, it's so concentrated. It's so in the right time, so in the right place. It's like you ain't moving at all. No effort. Okay? Think of it like that. So it's not just like sit there and take it all in, but that is a part of it. You got to know when to hold them, know when to fold them. I don't remember the rest of those lyrics, but you get where I'm going with this. So, thunder, divine inspiration. Okay? Thunder is change. Thunder is something from a shake, a quake, a movement, a generous amount of potential energy. Now, all of these are potential energy. That water, those signals, potential energy. That wind, that information, potential energy. You take all of it to build into your reality. You use the information from here. You use the information from here. You use the information from the mountain. All of that's potential energy. But when you get thunder and lightning, baby, you get sound and you get light. And so you have gotten all of your senses activated by week 3, and you might be feeling what happens the week after that, which is what represents the flame on top of her head. Flame over mountain, divine inspiration. Something is going to come to you from the week of the 19th to the 24th, let's say, where you get this divine amount of inspiration. And this is really cool because it's about, the theme here is like the wanderer. And I want you to imagine being remember we talked about, if you watch the dimensions episode, we talked about the difference between the 3rd, 4th, and 5th dimensions. Okay. And within the 4th dimension, you become the viewer of your experience, or you're in the experience. So you're kind of popping between these two frames before you settle into the 5th dimension where you can see everything and create from that level. Okay. Now, I want you to consider for a minute the idea that as you go through this experience, as more inspiration comes to you, can you step out of your reality in the 4th dimensional frame and look at everything as a stranger? As sometimes, I've been thinking a lot about aliens, which I am apt to do if you have watched anything that I put out. I love me some aliens. Okay, so I've been thinking about, why would they want to come visit Earth? And in this idea, I think I bet you there are aliens watching the Olympics. I bet you aliens are watching absolutely they are. Why wouldn't they want to see that? It's absolutely, I would go to their Olympics if I could. I bet you they're eating the food. They got to be, right? And I think of these experiences from this outside perspective of like this place, like a Disneyland almost, and like what parts I really like and what parts would they look at and be like, that's so backwards. That's so dumb. Why do they do that? Why do they let their society like be homeless? Why don't they help those people that the stronger the society is, the better the whole thing is, like, right? And I think of it like that. So I want you to be the wanderer in the experience, to take that divine inspiration in. You got to release all judgment and all thoughts, and don't fix yourself on something. And I want to talk about this for a second. Don't fix yourself to things. I want to talk about this for a second. Okay. Let's listen to me when I say this. When you remain open to all possibility, then whatever comes in, you won't bounce some of that information off of you. You take it in pure. When you fix yourself to the idea of what something is and carve that out, okay, it's really hard to shift. It's really hard to get more information in there. And you become fixed in something that is ultimately probably more, has more variables than that. All right. There's a thing that I was watching once about like how we name things. So if you have, like, let's say tree, just because it's the first thing I saw from the window, tree. Okay. All of a sudden, everyone who knows the word tree has a defined idea about what a tree is. And if I told you that trees could get up, walk, talk, and get a glass of water from the fridge, you would think I was bananas, right? Now, I'm not saying that they can, but there's no space for you there once you've defined this term tree. You have your general ideas about it, and you have your general ideas about what it is not. And when we do that, if you think of it as energy and not tangible, but mass, it's almost like it becomes dense and you don't allow new information to enter, which is where we are right now in the world. People are terrified of change. Thunder represents change. People are terrified of change. And within it, they freak out sometimes before even knowing what that change could do, hearing the other opinion about that change. It's so much change, they don't feel like they have that steady mountain to sit in. But when you are a mountain and change comes in, you don't feel swayed. Okay. You are able to allow it. With the stillness, it can ignite that flame that leads to divine inspiration. But you need to be still, because if you've ever built a fire, it takes a lot of momentum. It takes sticks. It takes dry stuff. It takes rubbing something together. That's a momentum, that flame. And that comes from this electrical charged voltage of thunder, but it needs a willing participant to latch on to catch. And you, my friend, are supposed to be that participant. Okay. So that divine flame above her head, okay, she has that going on. But if you look at the bottom, there's a flame to the left. And what you can't really see it here, all the way to the right, there's a flame to the right. And that to me is like, when you develop that flame, that inner knowing, that inner divine spark, that inner touch, that confidence from all of this experience, your flame then lights up another group, lights up another human, lights up with the manifestations that you build, lights up everything around you, and you share that fire with others. And that is the experience that I'm trying to draw on here. And there's a flame to the left that you can't see. I should have taken a better picture of this, but I did what I did in the time that I could, and I'm happy with it. All right. But I want you to think about that. Your flame is not just for you, it's for the collective. Just like the emotions that came in are not just yours, they're from the collective. Just like the flame is not just yours, it's from the collective. We all share in this experience, but this is your part that you get to ignite and light and delight and inspire and build and make and paint and sing. And did I say right? I think I said right. I've covered enough. Okay. So the water came down. The wind parted the water. The thunder came through. The flame was lit. And now that water has carved lakes, which is what you see at the bottom left and right of the mountain, and channeling through the mountain. We have, and under the mountain, lakes. Okay. So lakes are carved rock with water. It's earth that has taken a form for your emotions to settle into, almost like a cup that's full versus a cup that's empty. And how water needs a vessel to take shape. It allows a place for your emotions to take a shape. So you've taken the flame of divine inspiration and you've carved out a space for your emotions to grow. And what is considered like lake also represents community and building and trust and groups and all of the animals that come to drink from the lake and all of the fish that swim in the lake and all of the life that comes from this carved water. So you see these little groups of people at the bottom to the left are like building a community because now this place has water. You've provided nourishment for yourself or others for a place for like this village to be formed underneath. Now, I want to talk to you a bit about a couple of things. Okay. So first of all, the sun is in Cancer. And I want you to think of Cancer as also having that structure. Okay. So Cancer has a structure on the outside and soft stuff on the inside. And you can kind of think of like that as a lake with the hard rock on the outside. Okay. And it's a containment for the emotions. It's the home. It's the security. It's how you protect yourself. Okay. Now the shell too thick, you're too protected. You have too many blocks on your emotions. The shell too thin, too much is permeable. Anything can get in. The right structures are necessary for your emotions to flow. This always brings me back to the essence of the divine feminine because Cancer is so connected to the moon. It's so connected to water. It's so connected to the mother. It's so connected to nurturing and how she needs a protection around her. And I think of that. So think of your divine lake or fluid or emotion and this containment also being a form of protection, a barrier for a place to carve out. The masculine, remember, is the barrier and the boundary, and that feminine deep ocean, so that you have the structure that's necessary and the flow within it to do what you need to do. You now have both of these things together. You'll have that by the 25th of the month. Now, let's talk about Saturn for a little bit. Now, all the way at the bottom of the mountain, this little village, you see construction happening, okay? We've got rubble and construction, and this is representing Saturn right now. Now, I want you to notice there's a foundation is set, okay? You're building though, and you're still building. So Saturn's going retrograde this month. And so I don't necessarily want you to think that you have to tear down structures, but I want you to imagine you have to look at your blueprint a little bit more closely and match it up to what you actually want to experience in this reality, okay, simultaneously. So if you can do, that's better. Ooh, that's a little light. So if you can do both, I'm looking red at the same time. Look at what you said you wanted to build. Pair it with what you really, really want. Be real with yourself, okay? So that's me looking at this monthly report and saying, I don't want to spend 3 days doing anything. This is taking too long. Readjust. There will be many things that you have to do this with until the end of fall, until next year. So just get used to it and go through this editing process and make it beautiful. Refine, 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 refine. That is your literal goal right now, is to ensure that this thing that you're building, remember, Saturn is going from Aries back to Pisces. So you're going back to the waters. You're going back to that holy space before you shoot out again. You want to ensure that the plant is perfect or the business is, whatever it is, that it grows up with the proper foundation. All right. And that's the thing about this. And one of the most generous things about energy, all right, is that it's always going to give you another moment to redo or rethink or restructure. It's the best, most kindest thing that we can get. There's another thing I'm going to talk about, but that's really kind. On top of that, if you think about it being like this other chance for you to restructure everything and to just think about it a little bit more deeply, it's like it lets you build the model or the mock-up and then knocks things over a bit to say, you know what, you need to, that left side is not strong enough. And while we can get annoyed when this happens, it's for our best interest to ensure that our foundations for what we want are actually sturdy so that we can just grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. Without it, we'll collapse. So after the lake, you get to, by the 31st, we go to retreat. What is that? Pull back, go to the dark space, go inside, Listen to yourself. See where you're still feeling tight, see where you're still feeling loose, see where your energy is going, see what's being pulled in what direction. Take a minute, step back, and look inside. Give yourself the space to like or dislike. This is earth over mountain. So we've got that, again, that divine feminine intuition coming in, helping us out, ensuring that we're doing exactly what we want to do. The archetype of this current creation, okay, is freedom. I want you to think about that. And everywhere you look, I want you to consider where you don't feel free, because that is what we've been doing for 12,000 years, is literally trying to find our freedom, personal freedom, right? Where you don't feel like you have to, but you get to. Personal freedom requires personal responsibility. We keep talking about this as a theme, but it is what is necessary. And I'm going to leave you with this point, and it's a video that I think I'm going to do. But right now, there's an excellent article on my blog about meeting your demons, and I'm going to talk about this for a hot second. So I watched this stupid movie the other night with my husband about, it was called Sphere. I don't know if you've ever seen it. I think it's not Michael Douglas. It doesn't matter who's in it. Okay. So I'm going to spoil alert because it's years old and we be watching old movies. Okay. So the idea of this movie is that these scientists find a spaceship under the ocean from sonar. Okay. And based on the way that the coral is built, they realize that this UFO has been down there for like 300 years. And so they pull a team together to go down there and like explore the inside of this spacecraft. Okay. Okay. So they get into this spaceship and they realize that everything is in English, that these are humans from the future. And, I really don't appreciate watching what I think is going to be an alien movie, and there ain't no aliens, but whatever, because the premise was kind of cool. So in the center of this ship was this golden sphere, and each scientist walked inside of it, even though they didn't tell the other one that they had. And some of them claim that they don't even remember walking in it. Okay. And all of this chaos starts to erupt. And it's silly stuff that scientists wouldn't necessarily, like jellyfish attack, right? And like jellyfish aren't down at this depth. What are jellyfish doing here? And then these snakes get on the spaceship, and all of these stupid things are happening. And it turns out that everyone who went into the sphere, which is now like 3 people, everybody else died, and all those people had gone into the sphere. Everyone who went in, they were able to manifest instantly when they got out. And the only thing that they kept manifesting were all of their freaking fears. Okay. So, if they had a fear of snakes, all of a sudden giant water snakes were in the water. So as they were so a storm hits above, of course, they're stuck down here with all their fears now, and they are just freaking out, each and every one of them. It takes them a while to figure out what's going on. Finally, they figure out what's going on, and they have an opening to get off the ship and like go back up to the surface. Okay. They want to get the hell out of here. But because they manifest instantly, every time they say something like, we're never going to make it, boop, they end up running, and they end up at the front of the tunnel instead of where the ship is again. Or another turn, and then another turn. And every time they had a self-doubt, it would happen again and again and again. And I thought this was so funny because this is why we can't manifest instantly on this planet, except for we do. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. So imagine we are quarantined because we are not responsible creators. We create good and bad constantly. All of your fears, and if you try to manifest everything that you wanted right now, how would you keep it? Would you not be afraid of losing half the things that you asked for because of just, I'm going to spend all my money. I'm going to do this. My husband might cheat on me. Like all of these things that come in that attach to this thing that we say that we want with this lack of love or fear deep within us. We are sloppy creators. Okay. Now, if you watch my last couple of videos, I've been talking about this. Mother Earth and the plants and nature are saying, we can't take your demons anymore. And I've got to talk about that. And I told you, I got a great article about this on my website. But if you want to know more here, let's talk about it. So I want you to imagine that every time you feel fear about one experience or one subject, it goes, all thoughts are things, right? They have a mass to them. They have to go somewhere. Now, by the time they get to 3D, they've densified so much that they've slowed down slower than the speed of light. And now you can experience them and see them. But before that, you're just sending up signals, attaching them. So each signal is a bubble, attaching more bubbles, more bubbles, more bubbles, more bubbles until it takes form. All of your fears go to the astral plane, to the dream area, to the fourth dimension, to the archetype plane. They have to go somewhere. And because it's an archetype and a symbol plane, that is how the energy is read on that plane. Your greatest fears are your demons. They are literally the demons. They are sloppy messes that you have created in your nightmares that are literally implanted and infesting the fourth dimension. And we have to clean up our mess, okay? Our creations have to go somewhere when we create them, and that's where they go. So all the dreams you've created are there before they densify to Earth, but all your mess is there before it comes to Earth. And then you have these experiences to clean up your mess, but you ignore it and you keep moving with the fear, okay? We all do it. So I talk about in this how my demons came to me and said, I am your demon of like, I used to be a really angry kid and an angry person, and I could cuss out anybody like that, right? And so once I developed and I stopped doing that, I kind of hid my voice because I was so worried about going off on people, okay? And there is a side of me that can be absolutely vicious. That fear, that emotion of anger and fury and rage, they exist for a reason. We didn't create the emotions. We only experience them and then define them as bad. And then they go up and become bad. We name them as bad because we did not use them towards love. So when my demon came to me, they said, you have sequestered us. You have shamed us. You have put us in a corner. You have told us we can't hear. We don't have value. How does an individual on this planet act when they feel like they don't have value? Okay. They don't know how to value anything. That's cluttering up the fourth dimension. You're supposed to take that anger and that rage and that fury and turn it towards love and use it to express through that fire in your heart what is necessary to create more love on this planet. So our job is to turn this darkness into light. And we've left some soldiers behind and they're literally littering up someone else's environment. Imagine if all of your fears existed in your house with you as entities. How would that feel? Okay. And that's exactly what's happening. So you have to take these parts of yourself that you have thrown and cast aside and treat them with love and give them a task or a role or a way to feel empowered in this reality, utilizing their gifts of what they offer you. Being ferocious isn't nice until you're a lion trying to protect their cub, right? There are moments in life where it's required, or it wouldn't be an energy or an emotion that existed here. We did not create the emotions. We took them and we decided we were going to label them good or bad, right? And then all of them are neutral and divine opportunities to turn something from potential energy into light. Okay. And that is what we're supposed to be doing. We're just practically filters, guys. So if you'd like to read that article, it is on my website. I will have the description of that below and the healing activating artwork here. I hope you enjoyed this. Please, if you like this, comment, subscribe to be notified of all of my crazy stories and all of that fun stuff. But really let me know, guys, if you enjoyed this so that I can keep going in this direction, because I don't want to stop drawing. I'm having so much fun and I've been doing it like a maniac. I've got so much work to present now and I'm almost done with half of it. I got some new coloring mechanisms. I went and got some new things today, some oil pastels, and I'm very excited. And also on top of that, with that, I'm doing it in my healing work. And so I have business art that I did for my friend's business that I healed her land and then created this beautiful art piece that I'm going to show you. And I've got art piece from some of my sessions that I'm finishing up. And I'm going to be doing them, I think, in colored pencil, pastels, oil pastels, and oil. So I have two different versions. If you are interested in that, you can find more information about that below. But in the meantime, that's what I'm going to be over here doing while I remain still with the mountain and kind of determine my action places and plans to help bring more love to the systems that I think are trying to choke us. Okay. So with that, again, this is Candace. This is the channel for the channelers. I hope you light workers are having a good time. I also wanted to ask you one more thing before you leave, if you're still here. If you have someone you would like me to interview, someone you'd want more insight into, where you feel like I'm trying to do more interviews here, guys. And what I got to say before I go is I feel like there are a lot of people out there to guide people who are just waking up or about to wake up. But once you've awoken and once you have become a light worker and once you're in this field, it's like there's no one to talk to about this stuff. And so I want to bring in these people who I find that are experts in what they do. And we get to have an elevated conversation from our level of understanding and get past all the fluff of like the false beliefs and stuff. We don't have to go there because we know more. So if you have some people that you would really like me to interview, please leave a comment and let me know, because I've got a list and I want it to keep growing. Okay. So that we can just explore further and deeper. And I'm trying to talk to people who've had 30 and backs and who do astral traveling constantly and who talk to cats for a living. Okay. That's where we're going with this. So if you know anyone that you watch, follow, love to watch, just please shoot me something below or in an email, anything. Have a fabulous July. Obviously, I have more content coming throughout the month, and you will see me again. Goodbye.